Hello, and welcome to the Early Bird Special with your hosts, Carole Montgomery and Julia Scotti. And now, here's Carole Montgomery. Hello, everybody. How are you? Look at us starting on time and everything. Welcome to the Early Bird Special. I'm trying to figure out if I'm in the right space here. You can see that, we've been doing spring cleaning, so there's a lot of crap in the house. So just wanted to say, hey, what's up? I'm officially vaccinated, which is pretty exciting. Yes, right there. And here's the good news. I'm sure we'll talk with Julia about it because she was also officially vaccinated, but no major side effects, which was, when it comes to all of this stuff, people, you've got the anti-vaxxers and the pro-vaxxers and the people who think that there's a chip in you, and there's just a lot of crap about it. I took both of the vaccines, and I remember saying when in the fall when they were talking about the vaccines, I was like, I'm going to wait. But at this point, I live with my mother-in-law, and she's 83 years old, and I haven't seen my son because he doesn't want to come over because he's worried somehow he's going to get on the subway and coronavirus is going to leap into his backpack and spread it throughout the family. So I did it for that. So I think the reason why you get the vaccine is, yes, obviously, you should go out and make sure that you're vaccinated so you can go out and party. But it is also for the other people. That's also one of the reasons why you wear a mask and you wash your hands. So I'm thrilled. There were I had no side effects. I mean, I had a mildly sore arm, and I was really, because as you know, the media, God forbid they should do anything that's nice, but they have to scare you. Well, the second dose, there's a lot of bad side effects. And, some people I know had really bad side effects. My sister was very tired. But like I said, I posted this on social media. I said, I'm always tired. So if I was more tired, I wouldn't have known because I still nap twice a day. So I'm thrilled about it. I'm hopeful too. I'm really hopeful that this is the beginning of the end for us. Except for the people who are down in Miami right now having spring break, because people really, I get it. And, I understand because these are all young people. I really do understand this. We've all been cooped up for a year, and we all want to just go out and party and drink and be with our friends. But that little incident is going to cause another surge. That's why you have to be vaccinated. That's why you have to keep doing the mask. So that's my little thing. The Javits Center, once again, I think I mentioned this before. Kudos to the Javits Center. They ran it because it's through the National Guard. They ran it amazingly. My husband and I were in and out in 40 minutes, and that's not including sitting and waiting to see whether or not, you had an effect to it. So kudos to the Javits Center and kudos to the National Guard. Hopefully we'll be opening up. New York City is starting to waken up. It's beautiful here in New York City, and it's a beautiful spring day. So hopefully we will open up really fast. I keep saying that the more allegations that go against Cuomo, the more stuff will open up. Pretty soon when there's about 15 women, everything will be back to normal. It'll be no social distancing because people are like, Cuomo's trying so desperately to take the attention away from him. Other things that are happening, I went shopping today because I decided I wanted to see how badly I had gained my weight. By the way, that's another thing. I went to the doctor. I did my mammogram. Everything is fine. So all you people out there in Facebook land and beyond, you're stuck with me for another year. But I have to talk about this, and then I'll bring on my lovely co-host and my fabulous guest, Jennifer Palumbo. Have you been noticing the dresses recently that they're showing? Like, every year in the they look like schoolmarm dresses. They look like schoolmarm dresses. And so I just want to say to the fashion designers, I know that all the women have been baking bread during the pandemic, but that doesn't mean we want to look like Laura Ingalls, okay? Maybe maybe something a little sexier than the little bow tie and the little flowered things. Because seriously, what are you fucking thinking? All right. Anyway, let me bring on my fabulous co-host Julia Scotti, and then we will catch up because Julia wasn't here last week, and then I'll bring on my fabulous guest Jen Palumbo. So let's hear it. Let's say hi to Julia. Hey, Julia.
I gotta tell you though, Miss Beadle from Little House on the Prairie, hot, major league hot, Miss Beadle, the teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, the kids in Florida now, you know what it reminds when you see them all, debauchering all down there. You know the old Bible movies where like Jesus is going, guys, calm down. You're living wrong, and they're drinking wine, and the girls are like, doing the sexy dance with the veils and stuff. That's what it's like in Miami right now.
I know. It's I get it. Look, I really do understand it because everyone's been cooped up. But we're the old people who are fully vaccinated. You don't see us fucking wearing thongs and dancing on cars yet.
You haven't been to my house. I strapped on a pair of chicken wings the other day and was running around the house.
Were you trying to fly?
No, it's just Thursday. I belong to a club.
How are you feeling?
I feel absolutely much better, thank you.
Okay.
I was telling you before we started that it was partially a response to the COVID shot, the second shot, but more importantly, I have a really bad spine, and I got a gigantic fucking needle like this. I swear to God. All right, my arm is off the screen here.
Oh God!
But here's one end of it, right?
Wow.
And then here's the other end of it, way over here. So, right in the base of my spine, and that's what killed me. Killed me. That's right.
And they couldn't like give you some kind of anesthesia for the shot.
He gave me like 3 little shots of lidocaine to numb it.
Oh my God!
When somebody's jamming a spike, like the one that was the golden spike where the east and west cut. Now there's not enough needles in the world that can numb that pain. So, yeah. So
Julia called me and basically she said she was having this thing done. And I was surprised that when I think I called you back and you just sounded so. Do you remember me calling you back?
Oh yeah, I was half asleep. I was asleep when you called, but I was. It hurt. It hurt.
Yeah.
A lot, and I was crying. Carol. I was crying in the office. I was crying, and then these nurses are like, "Come on." I'm like, all right. I hate when nurses say "come on" like that.
Well, did I ever tell you that when I the day after I gave birth to Lane, I couldn't breastfeed right. I couldn't latch on, and I swear to you, a nurse, she must have been from Germany. She goes, "You do this," and she took my nipple and she fucking walked across the fucking room to try to get me to breast. So yeah, nurses, they don't give a shit.
I actually had a nurse like that in Canada when I went for my surgery or as my niece calls it, the event. Right. So there was a whole bunch of us staying at this mansion. It was a mansion. It was a house in an island.
Right.
And we were all recovering from surgery, and we had a nurse like a Nurse Diesel kind of woman with the complete right out of Central Casting with the accent, and I had to go to the bathroom, and you had to sit now, right? Because it was hard because there was a catheter, and I don't want to get into that gross stuff, but it was much easier to just stand still, right? And she's like, "You sit down. You are a woman now." It was okay. All right.
Wow. I'm going to sit down right now. God, that was terrifying.
It was. She was scary. She was very scary.
That's hysterical.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So listen, we missed you last week.
I missed being here.
But let's bring on Jen.
Okay.
Jen Palumbo. I know that because I know Jen. Well, we'll tell the stories, but we used to do stand up together, and she went and she has left stand up, but gone on to become an amazing writer, an amazing rights advocate for infertile families. I don't fucking know. I can't speak, but you might have known her or her husband. Her husband is Mike Sisko, and he used to do stand up also. So I want to talk to her about that too. What's it like to actually leave this horrible life that we have? Not that it's horrible. It's wonderful. I love it. I'm very happy. Anyway, let's bring her to. Let's say hi to Jen. Hi, Jen.
You guys. I forgot I was supposed to be on the show. I was listening to you talk about nurses and nipples, and I'm like, what am I watching? Like, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to be participating soon. Okay. Yeah. Hello.
And this is Julia.
Hello, Julia. Team J.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Jen is still making. I mean,
Wait, do I call her Jen J? That's what. Do you want me to call you Jen J?
No, you can call me Jen. Jenn. Leave off the last S for savings.
That's okay.
Yeah, just call her Jen. I love your background. That's very nice.
Thank you. You're actually in my bedroom, and I felt like it was too early in Julie and I's relationship for her to be in my bedroom. So I put up a screen to be like, no, I'm here hanging out in the city.
What is it? I can't make it out. It's too small.
It's a New York City backdrop. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
I don't want you to see the bed that I didn't make.
That's okay.
Yeah. Jen is very excited to be here because she hasn't spoken to anybody since her husband and 2 sons. So. Yeah.
I'm thrilled. As I told you, to talk to anyone who hasn't been in or come out of my vagina is very exciting. And speaking of, you mentioned a mammogram. No one was more excited to get a mammogram than me. It was because I could leave the house and no one would come with me. It was embarrassing. I was like on the subway, like getting a mammogram, reading my book, listening to whatever music I wanted.
Yeah.
Woman who did it was a scary Russian woman, but she was like, I knew, right? She's like, I've never seen anyone happier to have a mammogram. I'm like, I've been out of the house for like 3 hours to do this. So,
and she's got young kids, Julia. So she's still in that phase where
I'm sorry. I saw your kids actually. I went on. I was researching you. I saw you.
They're 9 and 5. They're 9 and 5. And
oh yeah.
They are to a point. Well, they were adorable from like March 2020 to about maybe September 2020.
Well, I watched the little book you made with your boy.
My younger son.
That was adorbs.
Thank you. He takes after Carole. And that he curses a lot.
Oh, good. Okay.
He's going to totally be a comedian. Go ahead.
About cursing in front of so Mike and I curse a lot. It's just the way it is. And Carole, I genuinely took your parental advice in that topic. And it's okay to curse as long as it's funny.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to not curse. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
So Matthew has adapted that. As long as it's appropriate, used appropriately in a sentence, and it's funny.
My father was like that. My father was a very funny man, and my mother and father were divorced, and he used to pick me up when for visitation, and I get in the car with him, and he'd go, "How you doing?" I go, "I'm doing good." He goes, "How's your sister?" And I go, "She's doing good." And he just look at me and he goes, "And how's the douchebag?" meaning my mother. But you couldn't get mad at her because you knew. She kind of was a douchebag.
It was factually accurate.
Yes, but the way he said it,
that's just. Well, it has to be. It has to be appropriate. It has to be grammatically correct, and you can't be racist and you can't be homophobic. No, so I mean that and so I'm glad that you took that because otherwise, and Lane doesn't curse at all now. He does.
Well, that makes sense in a way. Yeah, because please, been there, done that in my toddler years.
Exactly. Have you seen my mother's act? I'm not cursing just to piss her off.
Yeah.
So you know, they're both. I think I've only met them now. I think I've been to the house once or twice. I met both of them, but they were way younger. They were way younger.
Yeah. Matthew's very, very outgoing. He wants to create his own show. He's truly like me, like just won't stop talking and is ready to, like the other night, my older son, Michael, asked me to read him a story. And Matthew said, "Can I be your co-host?" I love that he used the term co-host. I'm like, okay, it's just Dr. Seuss. I don't really know if we need a co-host.
Can I be a co-host?
I know. I don't even know where he got co-host, but he's all about it. And then my older son is on the autistic spectrum. And so he's not as verbal. He's speech delayed. And so the poor man in this house, him and Mike, I guess, they are equally loquacious. And but Michael gets like overwhelmed by all of us. So he I don't think he likes us very much. He's often in his room. Like he'll play with Matthew, and then he'll get to a point where Matthew is like just talking. Michael's like, "I'm gonna have alone time in my room." And then
wow, that's wild.
So he gets very overwhelmed.
I was telling Julia about, because we met as stand-up comics, and even though you are not doing stand-up, and neither is Mike, I assume. How you're both still hysterical people, and you do continue writing and doing other things. So I think it's great for the audience to see, because we've had so many comics that are still in the grind. What was it that made you just go, I just can't do this anymore?
The one thing I'll say is I do still host if it's a fundraiser.
Right.
I still do that. So I emcee occasionally for fundraisers, because I know it sounds so corny and a bunch of BS, but I really do love taking my sense of humor and applying it to good causes. And I've always done that. I mean, when you met me, I was volunteering at Gilda's Club, and, the GMHC. And I think if you have a sense of humor, I really think it's so necessary to bring that humor to dark situations sometimes, because I think it can really help people. And so I still do that. I definitely don't perform in clubs anymore, aside from the pandemic. I think I stopped performing when I had my son. And I think the biggest thing was I was really tired. Like physically tired. Like when I think about, like, I used to do shows at the Brokerage all the time, on Long Island. And they would have a show at 8 and 10:30.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about doing a show at 10:30 now, I'm like, oh my God, I would not be able to be awake. But I think the thing that it was a really tough decision. People are like, oh, do you miss stand-up? And I do, but you guys know better than anyone. I miss the good show. Like when there was an audience and it was a great night and the mic worked, no one grabbed your ass, great night. But a lot of the shows were 4:00 on a Sunday with nuns and Republicans in the audience.
But I think one of the things with comedy and comedians is that what it does to you. You start out. We all start out, at the same point as stand-ups, trying to be stand-up. But somewhere along the way, other interests that you have take hold, and your comedy moves you. Your life moves you into a different direction where you can still, where your comedy still applies, whether it's producing or directing, or in your case, doing what you're doing. I mean, or writing.
You hit the nail on the head. I found. And I don't mean to put down my stand-up, because I was adorable in my own way, but I think I'm a better writer than I was a stand-up performer. And so you're right. The more I was writing, I write different things. Some are not that funny. But I just found that was more my comfort zone, and I didn't have to stay up till 11 o'clock at night and be like the sixth person up on a show. It just couldn't. I couldn't have the same energy. And writing,
but
I
love
really
that
love
comedy can bring you to different avenues. Bring you down different avenues, and you're still doing that thing you love, but you're just doing it in something else that you love, maybe even more than stand-up. Stand-up is not an attractive lifestyle. It's just not. No,
and I love affording things, which I don't mean to sound unkind.
Well, there's that too, yeah.
But that Mike and I, there were so many friends, not to be a bummer, but we had so many friends who either was it Greg Giraldo? Like, he was a
Yeah.
pretty successful comic. He's dead in a hotel room, no
Mhm.
insurance, nothing to leave his kids. And we have this, we have a special needs son. And it started to just become not sustainable. And
Right.
the more I started to get very active in the infertility community, because of my own troubles of trying to conceive, I saw that my humor was really appreciated there. And the thing that amazes me is when I was a stand-up and I was doing writing, everyone's like, okay, like maybe I'd get a piece published here and there. But when I actually started writing about infertility in particular, at the time, not a lot of people were. Now everyone's doing it. Now everyone's talking about their uterus. But that got me published more than anything else. And I think it's because, exactly like you said, I think some things met my sense of humor, my skill for writing, and then a personal issue that I cared about.
Mhm.
And that's sort of when things started to make sense. But I
Yeah.
mean, I miss it, but I miss the good shows. I don't miss the other.
And I also like, this year of being away from comedy clubs, like, and the bullshit of comedy clubs, that part I'm not looking forward to. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, Julia,
Yeah.
do you agree with me on this? Like, like I'm spoiled now. I just want to go into theaters.
Well,
yeah.
I think for me too. I think that's where I want to be. I know that I'm working on. I just finished a piece that's taken me the entire length of the quarantine to finish. I just finished it yesterday.
Wow.
I haven't performed it yet, but I wanted. It's going on the next album, and so yes, I want to work only theaters at this point, and
Right. And I think like, I mean, like I'm going to still, the whole scene of it doesn't bode well for like, you're right, the whole staying out late, and that's just such a pain. I mean,
I feel so bad saying that, but
no.
I remember like prom night. Remember there was like
Oh
shows.
God.
It was like the Night of the Living Dead for comics.
Right.
It was like 2 a.m, and you'd run into someone going to the Comedy Cellar because there was a prom comedy show, and like it was so great, like to do that. But I am totally lacking.
I'm
in
sorry.
the energy.
Even back then, prom shows sucked.
Yeah.
Dangerfield's at 4 in the morning.
Oh, God.
No, the kids throwing up in the no. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Bachelorette parties are the worst.
They
And
were
it's funny,
never good. Yeah.
we had a parent-teacher conference for my oldest son, and they had a debate at the end. The teachers, like, oh, well, what should we put in the IEP, which is an individualized education program? And they're like, well, I really think we should put this, and I really think we should put that. Well, I don't mean to be offensive, but if we don't leave that in. And so they had this whole debate. And after the meeting, my son's teacher emailed me. She's like, I'm really sorry that got a little heated. And I'm like, I'm a comic. I'm like, I've been on stage in front of a drunk bachelorette audience, like
Right.
with penis heads. Like that was nothing. Like nothing, even
Right.
remotely.
I forgot
Yes.
about the penis heads.
The penis hats. Oh my
I forgot
God.
about
Penis
that.
tiaras,
Yeah.
penis straws.
Yes. But last night I did John Fugelsang's show, and that was at 10. And I mean, it was a call in, thank God, but I was literally in my pajamas talking to him, waiting, going, come on. And I just, it was too late for me, but I did it because, it's still always good to do the show. But yeah, anything after 10 o'clock, when I put in for avails for the shows in the city, it's always first show or nothing. First show or an early first show.
But
Yeah,
what
I don't think
amazes
there
me
was a
is,
late
wouldn't you
night
guys
meeting.
have the seniority to be like, I mean, both of you have been doing this for a while. I'm not calling you old. I'm thinking
are.
it, but I'm not calling you. But you guys have been doing it. Like, that's, I think, the effed up thing about stand-up is there's no, I mean, you pass at clubs, but there's no union. There's no seniority where you can really be like, I mean, it's almost now, I think that's the thing that was frustrating is, to me, sometimes it's not who's talented or who's funny. It's who has the most followers on Instagram.
Right.
Forget people who are really educated and talented like yourselves.
Thank you. Julia, you want to answer that? You want to answer like what you think about?
I think there's only a handful of comics, at least on the East Coast, that can walk into a New York club and command that kind of respect. I mean, I know I can walk into some club and they're like, and I feel like a newcomer sometimes. It's like, can I get on? You know, I walk in, can I get on? Well, I don't know. Maybe you can. Maybe someone else going up, and it is kind of, it does make you feel like shit because I've been doing this for 40 years. Come on.
See, I don't even like if the few rooms that I still work in the city, I know that they know that if I want to go on, if I ask, like when we were getting ready for the second special, so I work at Stand Up New York a lot. I just emailed them, said I don't need to get paid. I need to work on this 10 minutes. I need to come in A, B, C these 3 days, and they were like, come in, and that was nice. And probably it was because I said I was filming my second TV special, but it was nice to be able to do that. But to just go walk into a room and try to get on in a comedy club, you like you said, you feel like you're in high school again, and you're not with the cool kids. You feel like you're not with the cool kids anymore.
If you're Gaffigan or Seinfeld or any of those guys that walk in, and guys, and I emphasize the word guys, with few exceptions. I mean, like Judy Gold walk into a room and she's going to get on. I mean, but unless you're one of those people, nothing's changed. No.
And if you're Gaffigan and Seinfeld, you don't need to really fucking work on your material. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to go out on a limb there and say Jerry and Jim. Literally, we've talked about this before, but Jen, you don't know this. So I can't tell you how many men have said, "Why won't you do Men of a Certain Age? Like, why don't I do that version?" And I went, and I literally go because Seinfeld and Gaffigan don't need my fucking help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been Men of a Certain Age forever. I mean, has it not? I mean, my God, that's all it's been. I remember I was at the Friars Club years ago, and I was the only woman, and they referred to me almost like a bookend. Like, we'll put up Dave, we'll put up Bob, we'll put up Steve, we'll throw the girl up there to break it up, then we'll bring up John and Joe, and I'm like, men don't need help. Straight white men
don't need any. No, they don't need any.
No. They can do the Proud Boy show if they want to. But I don't think they need your help. I think what you've done is incredible. And I think the fact that people responded so quickly to it, which is one of the reasons, bear with me, why I love English television. Because if you watch English television, it's all older female characters are pretty much the lead characters. I'm like, how is that not caught on here? I don't know. But they're so esteemed. There's so many shows built around older women in the UK. So
and when it does happen here, when it happens here, in the rare occasions, they're surprised. It's like, whoa, imagine that. Golden Girls. Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, what's so funny about and this is when I always say but when and if we do a third special, I really want to tackle that. I want to tackle being an older woman, really what it's about, because the running joke in LA was people who were over 60 in LA were not getting vaccinated because they didn't want to show their age.
Oh, God. Did you hear about the young girls in Florida dressing up like grandmothers to get the vaccine?
No.
But meanwhile, millennials are dying.
Is that real?
That's true. They dressed up as grannies. The only thing
stupid are the guys. They're like, oh, she looks like she doesn't have a hard ass, so we better give her a vaccine. Like, how difficult was it to fool these guys? They said they dressed up like grannies. I'm like, what does that entail? Like,
yeah.
How do you dress up as grannies?
It looked like two girls that went dressed up as grannies for Halloween. So it didn't even really look real. It just looked. But the one thing I was going to say about this is the only, I was saying this to my husband. I said, the thing that's fascinating to me about the whole vaccination rollout is that it started with older people. Like, this is the only thing to me in my lifetime where they've actually said, we want you to live. You know?
Yeah. How nice. You're like, it's a good feeling that somebody wanted us to continue living.
But it is so funny that you said that about. It's true. Who's the Judi Dench? Like, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's also Penelope Keith. There's the woman who's, oh my God, Patricia Rutledge, or something. I'm saying her name wrong. But there's definitely these English actresses that they have these whole shows built around them, and they're really successful. And I don't know why. It's maybe because of the Queen, because a woman's in charge, an older woman's in charge. And she's like, bitch, I want to watch television, so I need to have a protagonist.
I don't know. I think we've been in, the culture has been so warped to believe that we're irrelevant. We have nothing to offer, and I've said this to Carol on any number of occasions. Ours is the only art form that the older you get, the more you're disenfranchised. Whereas every other art form, as you mature and age, you ripen, you get you've got so much more to express. With us, they just write us up.
Yeah,
we're just we're meaningless.
Right.
And we're 10 times funnier usually than most of some kid coming into comedy after 6 months.
Yeah.
10 times. Oh, yeah. I think we're more like 15, 20 times.
Well, but also, I've always said that people go, I shouldn't say women, this is for the younger male comics, but this has always been, I think, the case is that most guys go into comedy because they don't know what they want to do yet in their life, right? They're young, they're trying, maybe they're funny. I'm not talking about like the Pryors or the people that should have been comics. And then they go on the road and they get free drinks and free pussy and they're like, this is great. This is, but for the most part, none of these people really they end up doing this until they find out what they want to do. Because I've run into a lot of young men that do this because why not? Why the fuck not? Especially now, maybe more so now because it's an actual job now. Whereas, Julia, when you and I started especially, you had to do it because you loved to be a comedian. You wanted to be a comedian.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to people like Scrovan and Mike Rowe in particular. Remember Mike Rowe?
Yeah, Mike Rowe, sure.
From day one, all he wanted to be was a writer. He wanted to be called writer. He wanted to be a comedy writer. That's what I can remember him. We talked about the Dick Van Dyke Show and how much he wanted that, and he wanted to be that, and it's happened for him. And Scrovan, same, and a couple other people too. But I was very all I ever wanted was to be a comic.
Right.
That's all I ever wanted, and I got it.
Right. Yeah. And you achieved your dream, but a lot of people now, it's kind of like, maybe I'll try stand up. You're just like,
yeah,
okay. And then what's happening now I think I touched on this last week, but like there's little, like on social media right now, there's battles going on about comedy, and I just sit back and I laugh because I'm like, guys, the way you prove yourself as a comedian is you get on the stage and you kill. That's the only thing. All this backbiting on social media and going, well, you should do this and you should do that, and you said something racist 25 years ago, so you shouldn't be a comic. It's mind blowing with all that stuff. Well, I see you have something to say, Jen, about that.
No, well, I would be asked to MC a lot, and I know I was trying to explain to my non-comedic friends that the MC role isn't necessarily very respected, but it's actually one of the hardest roles. And I always loved it. I love MCing because I love to talk to the audience. I'm happy to talk to anyone that I'm not sleeping with or related to. Maybe it's changed a little now because it's obviously been a while since I've been in comedy clubs. But every time I'll rephrase. Every time a male comic saw that I was the MC, they immediately, I don't know if you guys got this too, they would immediately either like give me advice or they'd be like, hey, so when you go on the stage, just make sure you blah, blah, blah. Or it's like they didn't trust me to know what I was doing. And I always felt like every show, I remember saying that to my husband because he and I were doing a show together that I was emceeing, and he was like, Jesus, because the male comics would always be predominantly male. Right. And they would always treat me like it was the first time I was ever doing a show. And the only thing you could do was go up there and just do what you do. And I do think 9.5 times out of 10, they'd be like, oh, okay, she's good. And they would leave me alone. but it was so exhausting after doing it for 12 years to be like, now I got to prove myself again to these assholes.
Right.
Every single show, it was exhausting. And I don't know if it's because I was a woman. I don't know if it's because I'm so incredibly attractive. I don't know what it was, but every single show, I
was always grateful when there was a great MC on the show, because I knew that that they weren't vying to upstage somebody else. But you think back to the clubs back in the 80s. I mean, they were like Belzer was an MC. I mean, Larry Amoros was an MC.
Adrian Tosh was probably one of the best MCs ever.
I mean, crazy good people. But
everyone wants to be the feature or the headliner, and I'm like, no, I'm good with being MC. I aimed low and missed somehow.
But you know what? But the MC, the thing about the MC, Jen, you came into stand up after the MC used to be revered. Like when Julia and I started, the MC, first of all, they had all the power because, and I've said this before, back in our day when we started out, you didn't sign up. Like, you didn't like we get avails now for like the whole month. You didn't sign up for a month. You walked in, and if they deemed that they'd be like, hey, Carole, you want to go on now? And you're like, okay. And you're like, it wasn't, there was no schedule at all. And the MCs had it.
Well, the improv had a call in. You had to call in, I think, on Sunday, and then they posted it on Tuesday.
Right.
But if you weren't tight with the people in power, we know who those
we
were.
Won't go into that right now. I'll tell you. I'll text you the person, Jana. That's a whole other show. Yeah, but it's but they. So you just. And they were and Bill Maher was one of the MCs at Catch. Yes. It was Bill Maher. Paul Reiser was an MC at Catch. I think Seinfeld was an MC at the comic strip. So what you're saying, Jen, you were doing good stuff, but it's become a thing now to poo-poo the host.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, it was always like, oh no, she's just the MC.
Right.
It was like I was the Donna Reed of the evening, and I was just catering with my pearls to the male comics of the night. You know, but it's a bummer because I think it is a really special skill, and they really can make or break a show because they're the ones who kind of either warm up the audience or get them back if maybe one of the comics lost them, or I think it's an incredible skill because you constantly have to be reading the room, not just through your set, but throughout the entire
night. The history of emceeing is goes back to the vaudeville days. I mean, that person, whoever that was, carried the show. It was like almost like a continuity person on a TV set. You kept it moving along. And that can make or break a show. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But the problem with comedians in general is it's always, of course, about them, right? So comics would rather have the 6 minutes than learn the skill that Jen has. Like for me, being in Vegas, when I was in Vegas all those years, I was basically the host. I'd come out, I'd say a little patter, and then the naked girls, and then they'd give me a 10-minute spot. But it's all about keeping the show moving. It has nothing to do with and now here's Carole Montgomery. Nobody cared. Right. That's when they went to pee. They did that.
But I do think the audience I think the audience gave more love and respect to the MC than the comics did, at least when I was doing it. Because afterwards, the audience would be so effusive with me. And I'm weird in that I think it wasn't always about me. I really loved to talk to the audience. Sometimes they were funnier than anything that happened that night. And maybe that's why I wasn't a good comic, because I wasn't always about, no, I need my spot. And I don't know. I just wasn't, I think I was never fully comfortable.
But our original point was how now that you're out of it and you took those skills into this new area of your life.
Right.
And you're far and away ahead of everybody if there is competition in what you're doing. I don't know if there is or not, but you are far and away ahead of all those people because you've been up against it. You've You stared
But
into
you
the
guys,
abyss.
you both, and I mean, especially because I know Carole so well, I don't think it was until maybe a couple of years ago that I fully would go on stage and just really be me. Because I've been through so much shit by like we had infertility issues and, finance issues and changing careers and having kids. And then, my son gets diagnosed with autism. I had some health issues. And I used to always be like, I have to have a tight set. And, I was like always very militant about it. And then when I started hosting these fundraisers, I would get up there and sometimes talk without a joke. You know what I mean? Like, it has to be boom, 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 this. And I would tell a story that maybe, I think Dave Chappelle to me has influenced me in the last couple of years in that he is brilliant. And I know people said Richard Pryor did it, but for some reason, I think Dave Chappelle, I'm sorry, everyone. I think he's mastered the art of really brilliant, long stretches of like just fascinating material and then being really ridiculously funny. And I found as I was talking about getting older, as I was, I'm now a parent and I'm writing and I'm feeling a little bit more confident in what I'm good at and what I'm not. I feel like now I would be a really good comic, but I lack the energy. I wish I have such respect for people who had those skills when they were starting out, because maybe I would have done better, but I just didn't.
I think, Jen, first of all, you shouldn't put yourself down. You are and were a great comic. She was really, Julia, you'd have loved her stuff. I just think that we all, like, even though I'm still in the game, I would much rather be producing and, I like doing stand-up. I love, of course. But to me, like Julia wrote a play and we did a reading of it and I was part of the play. That to me excites me more than thinking I've got, a week in Iowa at the Chuckle Hut. Do you know what I mean?
But you always had that confidence. Not that I was insecure, but to really fully be yourself.
Right.
I mean, not everyone has that. And I don't think I fully was as comfortable in my skin then as I was now. And that's the shame, like what you were saying, Julia, earlier, is I think now women over their 40s are like the most valuable, like they feel the most strong and healthy and confident, maybe not this week, but it's a shame that that's when you feel the most powerful and together and nobody gives a shit.
I had been out of the business for 10 years. When I came back in, right from the beginning, I had decided to be, very honest about who I was and what I was. And for the first time, and this goes back to what you were saying, there was a power and a freedom that I never knew prior to, when I was Rick Scotty. I was always hiding something or, afraid to show myself. And this freedom that I have now has only grown over the last few years, where I feel like Wonder Woman sometimes. I can do anything up there if I, it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling of freedom, and and I think that comes from people who face their truth. You have to go through this sort of baptism of fire, like you did, with your, with your children and your career and everything else. Yeah. But it's like good steel. When you stick it in the fire, it makes you stronger, and sharper. And that's what you are. That's what you're going through.
Yeah. I mean, I saw the writing on the wall when I turned 50. And so then I started doing, directing and the developing. And stand-up will always be a part of my life. But, I mean, what do I have? 10 more years of possibly going on the road? I mean, like, to me, I'm just like, I'm tired.
That's how Mike felt. My husband was on the road nonstop for many, many years. He said he used to keep a microwave in the trunk of his car.
A lot of comics did that, yeah.
I was like, okay, but he
and
just
a coffee pot. And a coffee pot.
Yep.
Oh, I think he hit a wall with it. He's like, I'm tired. I want to see my kids. Because I remember when I got pregnant with Michael, our first child, he had like this whole thing about like, well, I still want to do stand up. You know, I still want to perform. Like, you know, is this going to change that? And he like kind of was trying to sort it all out. And then he started to do some shows after we had Michael, and he hated it. He hated being away. He was just in a different point in his life.
What does he do now?
He's an operations manager, and he loves it. He really loves. He specializes in prepaid credit cards, but he loves the finance aspect of it. And he's very good at math, and he likes, I think, the stability of it. And, you know, occasionally they'll have him do something, you know, if they do like a commercial or something on social media, they'll have him be creative. But with me, because I'm just writing all the time now, I write constantly. Right. There was one month I was drowning in assignments. And I said to Mike, you used to write. I'm like, you know, help me write something. He goes, no. I'm like, you were good. Like, he and I, that's how we met. We used to write together. I said, it's going to go to the same place. We're going to get the income. If you could just help me, though. He goes, if it's going to the same place, I don't need to write. So it's like, I'm going to play this video game. Carol knows, she knows my husband longer than I do. But he's like, I'm going to play this video game, and you do the writing. I'll be over here. He really was done. And he was very good.
He's very, very great good. Comic also. Great comic also.
But I can't believe I can't even get him to write. I'm like, write a guest blog. I'm like, or help me write. Sometimes he'll help me, like I'll bounce ideas off of him. But I can't believe he really was like, boom, I'm done. And that was it. He was out.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah. That's what. Well, he found something else that he loves. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess so. And I mean, I do think that when we met, and I hate saying this, but it's the truth. I think a little bit of what we were both looking for in stand-up comedy, we found in each other, which I want to puke saying that, but it's really true. Because Mike always didn't have kind of a stable life. He was always all over the place, and I come from a very traditional Italian family, and you get married and you just settle down and then die. Like, that's just pretty much the trajectory. And I think he really, when he finally like stopped, you know, like going here and there in Florida, it was big in Jacksonville. And how many people can say that? But he was like, you know, this is good. Like, I like having a home that is ours, and we have kids that I like spending time with, and whatever that was great, but he just really doesn't have any interest in it anymore.
That's fascinating to me, you know.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, I think, because I love, like, I'm working on another solo show with somebody, and that process I love. Like, if I could make my living just developing and directing, and occasionally doing it, you know, a comedy TV special, I would be perfectly happy. Like, I know that, like when we were doing the second special, it was like, I have to go out and I have to, you know, like I felt like a little kid because I had to work on my act. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, like, you get so used to doing your act, and then you're like, oh, I have to do this because a lot more people are going to see it. So I have to work it out, and I have to keep. So not that I don't like doing that, but I don't like the pressure of knowing that, you know, we're going to be shooting this. Like, Julia, when we were doing the second special, you went out and did your spot places, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was everywhere. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just now starting to look for places to break in this material for the album, because for me to make my material work, I have to know it like I'm talking to you. It has to be you know, part of my DNA, you know.
Absolutely. Otherwise, and so I'll tell you a great story. When we were doing the first special, right? So I had written all these different pieces, and I was, you know, when you take your act and you take one joke, you know, and I kept trying to do it, and it just didn't flow. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just was like, oh, it's good, but it's just not flowing. So the weekend before the special, I'm in the fucking Poconos, and, you know, it's the Poconos, so it's basically 45 minutes of dick jokes, and there's a chunk in the show that I'm doing, and it's exactly what you said, Julia. It's just like, you know, it's as if I'm just talking, and I'm on stage thinking to myself, idiot, just do this fucking chunk. And that's what I did because it was so, there was nothing, I was not going to worry at all about that material because I knew it. And it's important to do that. Otherwise.
Yeah. I like, I'm going out to do Dry Bar in Utah in a couple of weeks. And I'm working on the set, which is going to be basically a recycling of current stuff. But you have to be really careful about what you're doing. Dry Bar, if you, Jennifer, you don't know, it's a show that's primarily geared to Mormons. I don't know any other way to explain it. It goes all over the world.
It's very clean though. You have to be
squeaky
clean.
Super clean. Yeah.
So I'll never do it.
But they film it in Provo, and you can't. You just gotta be super clean, which is like a TV set, but in heaven. It's that kind of.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm deathly afraid that I'm gonna, drop an F-bomb accidentally because I'm New York, from the East Coast, so I'm really working on trying not to say that stuff, and I want it to be second nature to me by the time I get out there.
That's crazy though, in a sense of, because it's weird. I feel like a lot of times I would go up there, and especially as the MC, I think with stand-up, and this is something that has been so valuable in life, you also have to at the same time be comfortable with anything could happen and I will figure it out.
Right.
You never know. Even when you prepare to death, there's always like something that you're like, oh shoot. Like I remember one time I went to introduce somebody on stage and he was out smoking and the club owner was like, I was like, Comedy Club. It's like, okay, so
when I first came back, I was at Broadway Comedy Club one night. In the middle of my set, I hear this clatter. It's dark, you can't see the other. This woman's hair was on fire. She was laughing and she went back.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
And she had a lot of product, I guess, and it caught fire in the candle. And I was like, okay, that's something I've never seen before. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it prepares us for everything.
Well, one time when I was in Vegas, I'll never forget. This was the weird. So I'm in Vegas. I'm doing one of the comedy clubs. I come back. We were already back here in New York, and someone has a heart attack right in the front row.
Oh
okay, like literally, like.
Did you stop your set in that case?
Well, no, it's even better than that. Okay, so they have a heart attack. So we're like, so at first, when you see somebody do that as a comic, you're like, you're fucking with me, right? You're fucking with me. And then I realized it, and I was like, I was on the mic. I said, we need to get somebody call 911 and everything. And then the person who was with them also had a heart attack.
Oh my God!
Are you kidding me?
Because they were freaking out that their friend had a heart attack, and then they had a heart attack.
You really killed them.
Yes, literally, I really did kill them.
You genuinely killed that night. Oh my God!
We had to stop the show. They called in the EMTs. They took everybody out. Everyone is still there, and I say to the host, it was John Payton who used to book this club in Vegas. I said, John, what do you want me to do? He goes, well, go back on stage and tell people to just wait a little while, and then we'll do a show. After they take these people out.
After the autopsy.
How do you follow that act? How do you follow that?
Oh my God.
Is that why? On stage after that. But anyway, as I was saying,
so I was talking about my husband's dick. So I know, so weird. Anyway, listen, ladies, we're way past 45 because we've been just chattering away and having such a great time. Julia, do you have anything?
Oh, funny you had mentioned. I just, I don't know if I've ever brought it up before, but I have an album. Hello, boys, I'm back. That you can download wherever you want. Yay! Bye.
Jen, where can people find you, my dear?
I think I have a website called wonderwomanwriter.com, but I suggest you find me on Instagram because I'm way more fun and engaged there, and that's Jen, JENNJAYPAL.
Hold on. There we go.
But can I just also say in the remaining minute, I love Carole Montgomery.
Oh,
we don't talk on a daily basis, but she was like my Obi-Wan Kenobi of comedy.
Aw.
And I mean, there's so many things you said. I don't think you even know. I mean, she also was the one who recommended I have sex with my husband, but that's for another.
She recommended that to me too, so I don't know. Yeah.
But because I was like, well, I don't
means.
know if I want to date him. He's going through a divorce. She's like, just fuck him. That was Carole's dating advice at the time. But Carole has said so many things to me over the years that have been really valuable. So I just wanted to take this opportunity. I think Carole's just one of the most amazing humans. So thank you for
that. She's
allowing
Mama
me to
Rose. We call her Mama Rose.
Stop it.
Oh, yeah. And she has such a great attitude. Mike and I were genuinely talking about that in the car. Like, don't you wish you could be like Carole? Carole's like, well, let's try this and see if it works. Meanwhile, Mike and I are like, this is a complete disaster. Everything's a mess. That's why I think Matthew takes after you. He's got your devil may care attitude.
I do have to spend some time with young Matthew. I've decided. I have to teach him the ropes. I have to take him on the road.
People can't believe he really is so funny. And I'm not. I mean, other people have said that to me that are not related. They're like, your son is a riot. I don't know where he came from. It's Carole. It's his Jewish grandmother, Carole Montgomery.
Well, thank you for this. This was very nice. Talk about having thank you for the self-esteem boost, ladies. That was very nice of you. Thank you very much. Julia, you working anywhere this weekend?
No. But I am going to be in the city tomorrow, so I'm going to call you if you're around too.
Are you going to be where?
I'm going to be in the city tomorrow, so if you go.
So city tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Wednesday. I think I'm in town. I think I'm here.
I'll call you.
I was going to say that we could, because Todd will be playing softball, but because he hurt his knee, he's fucking in the bed in the other room. Because, we don't even get me started on that, Jen, because you want to know. I love you both. I'm going to click off, Jen. I'll send you a copy of this so you can see it and share it.
Nice meeting you, Jen.
Yes, you too. And good luck with everything. I'm definitely going to buy your CD.
Look at that.
Oh, man, I made a sale.
That's because I'm not doing stand-up comedy anymore.
I can retire.
Everybody out there, go get vaccinated, okay? Wear a mask. We're all in this together, folks. So stop being selfish. And we love you all. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.